Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to our bonus reel discussions as we had a great conversation with Tim Shope from Avid Solutions and didn't have nearly enough time to get to all the important stuff we wanted to talk about. So, Tim, if you don't mind, we had this slide teed up ready to talk about. First go-around didn't happen. The evolution that we were discussing was certainly been underway well before the COVID pandemic hit, but I know you guys are taking specific actions today to support manufacturing operations in the near term and long term that are being impacted. We put this slide together because on the one side, you got two guys standing side by side working in a plant, and now we have social distancing and you have limitations on putting people on site and things like that. So really just wanted to throw the door open and have a conversation about what you're seeing right now and what you think the future might look like from a support perspective.
Excellent. I brought it up a little bit in the previous session, but we're answering questions for customers today that we didn't intend to answer 3 or 4 months ago. COVID-19 has definitely changed our reality for a very long time. And even if we do drift back out of the new norm into something we consider the norm, I think manufacturers are going to be, they don't ever want to be back in this situation again. And we're facing one of the most formidable business challenges of our lifetime. I mean, you're seeing segments of the industry that are being affected or having to shut down production manufacturing, and these are critical supply chains. I mean, trying to find a cheeseburger at Wendy's today is pretty difficult. So I think we are having to find ways that we can continue to support a lot of these people through, whether it's remote support, their whole ecosystem of support has been disrupted. And we're having to find ways, leveraging new technologies, whether it's wearables, collaboration technologies like Zoom or Skype or whatever, to be able to virtually put boots on the ground without putting boots on the ground. So we're finding ways to do low contact or no contact execution of services, project execution, et cetera. We actually got our whole team going through our project execution methodologies, and we're examining each and every step of a traditional project, whether it's a brownfield execution or greenfield, and we are evaluating every time that we have to go to site or perceive that we had to go to site, and why did we have to go to site, and can we minimize the number of people we send? Can we not go to site? Can we send a customer a pair of wearables and have them walk us through their process? Can they go open cabinets, take pictures? Can we send them documentation, drop it directly in a chat like this, and have them see it in a hands-free environment on a production floor with noise canceling headphones, noise canceling microphones, so we can have this kind of conversation while they're in the middle of a production floor? Can we gather all the data we need to, quite honestly, can we quote a project without having to go in front of a customer? And what we're finding is, yes, we can. And the efficiencies it's going to create are going to create value everywhere. I mean, you're going to see manufacturing automate more than you've ever seen in the past. They're going to try to get to less and less people in a given space out of necessity. I think we're going to have some requirements come out of the federal government, right? OSHA, I think, is going to step in and have some workforce safety environments for social distancing. And those efficiencies that everybody's finding from working at home, work-life balance is going to be greatly improved. I think knowledge transfer will be greatly improved. If we did a remote commissioning where we leveraged a customer's E&I shop or their maintenance team to install a application, and we were able to commission it and troubleshoot it remotely in a combined setting with them. So if we had a commissioning command center where they could get the depths of Avid on the phone, live, AV, audio, visual, augmented reality in a matter of seconds, right? We could never put all of our lead engineers or our PMs on a site at one time without tremendous cost. But now we can pull the whole knowledge base of our company
So,
together.
so what does that look like? Like, I think I have, you know, like grocery store stuff giving me a box now of food I can cook at home and stuff. So you basically send people a box of stuff and here, give me a call when you're ready to put it together, something like that.
Very similar. There are technologies available out there that actually I got exposed to in the latter part of the year last year, in late December. And I kind of blew it off, didn't think a lot about it because I didn't have a deep-seated need or an application for it. But with today's environment, you can build an edge device that we can literally put in a box, ship it to a customer. Customer can pull it out, plug it into their northbound, get it out to the internet, plug the other side, and that can be behind a firewall, right? It takes one port to get out, and it creates a totally secure tunnel to a virtual inode in the cloud. And then we can deploy anything we need to deploy southbound, right? So if that were a CESMII connector, right, to connect to a Wonderware historian or a Pi historian and ingest data into the smart platform, the stuff that we did at NC State, we can mail that to a customer today. They can literally plug in 2 Ethernet connections, and we can get it up and running without putting a boot on the ground. So
just think about how that's almost a rite of passage, though, for young engineers to get sent out and be on the front line deployment teams for months at a time. So you're going to lose that ability to make the youngsters do that. So
there's that, but I think as we do more of it and we do it more in a collaborative environment, I mean, we're looking at a command center environment where you can, as I said, you can have 3 or 4 lead engineers with 20, 30 years experience collaborating with young engineers that maybe some of them are boots on the ground. Maybe we're leveraging wearables and using the customer's boots on the ground. Maybe that's not the right term for it, but just being able to have that kind of leadership involved continuously in a project is amazing. That we couldn't do that in the past.
Well, I think one of the things that we've been talking about a lot is that we really don't think the vision and the plans for CESMII have to change a lot because of COVID, right? Where we were going pre-COVID is where we're going today, but it changes the dynamic to even have a conversation with organizations that historically would never give you the time of day to think about deploying that way, right? And now they're going, you have to deploy that way. You have to come to me with new ways of helping us out because this is uncharted territory for all of us.
And I think that's, the whole IoT message of today is, you don't have to collapse all your different silos. You just have to have the ability to combine all your silos of data. And whether you're doing that on-prem, partially on-prem in a hybrid environment, or you're doing it in the cloud, we now have the ability to deliver hybrid remotely without putting people in contact with people. And I think that's going to be key. And I really think that the upside for a lot of our manufacturers, our customers and clients is, you hear the term onshoring a lot right now with supply chain as supply chains have been disrupted by this. I think you go back 15, 20 years in the workforce, a lot of those customers have diminished their engineering departments. They haven't run their own capital projects. They have outsourced. Their ecosystem of support has gone remote, or at least to a third-party environment. Now we got to figure out how to keep that alive because those supply chains are very, very critical.
Yeah, I work closely with a company that's in the food supply, and one of the main contacts that I've worked with over the years takes that a step further and say that it's the downsizing and the outsourcing of capabilities internally has gotten to the point where it's now limited even the problem solving capabilities internal to manufacturers. Right? That's a serious challenge.
That's one of the things that, if we look at the North America, right, we haven't executed very many greenfield or large greenfield projects in the past couple of decades compared to, Asia Pacific, et cetera, Middle East. And quite honestly, a lot of our large, heavy manufacturing environments haven't executed capital projects in so long, they forgot how to. They've lost the skill set. And so they're relying on OEMs, vendors, system integrators, EPCs, et cetera, to carry that load. And we have to find a way to continue to carry that load. They can't just turn around and restaff instantly. They can't gain that knowledge share instantly. But we got to find a way to continue to carry it, but we're going to carry it in very, very different manners. And I think the thing we're going to see is efficiencies, and honestly, I think you're going to see stuff being easier and more affordable to deploy.
That's our goal.
So Tim, if I can switch the conversation and get a little more technical with you about what some of the things that are different in our piping today, or you know, irrigation systems here. But if I use a metaphor of irrigation, you know, we used to flood the fields, you know, to irrigate, and then we put sprayer systems in, and then we've moved to drip. You know, things have changed of how we irrigate and how we handle data. You know, I don't know if it's a good metaphor to talk about data, but as we re-architect, and you were saying a lot of your systems are not green fields, right? They're brown fields. So I'm wondering how you're tackling some of that repiping, and if you can talk a little bit about what's happening there at that ITOT conversion and the ISA layers, and how data piping has changed.
That's a great metaphor, and I love it actually.
Now I understand where he was going before with that. Are you a plumber or are you a farmer question? He lost me previously.
Yeah. So you asked me that question earlier, and I told you I was a farmer. I was raised on a farm in Northeast Mississippi. My parents actually owned a John Deere tractor dealership. And so agriculture, if you look at waves of innovations, you look at where IT, OT convergence, or just IoT convergence has occurred, what a John Deere tractor can do today with GPS, it can drive itself. If you've got an 8-row planter, as you make a turn, rather than double seeding multiple rows that you couldn't do in the 80s or 90s, it will literally stop the seeds from going in the ground on those rows, so you don't double seed, so you don't waste seed, right? Those are the things that we have to do in manufacturing today. And the fact that agriculture has been doing it for 10 years now, it's really just the cost and the infrastructure that we have in manufacturing that has been a little prohibitive. Of, you know, rip and replace of an automation system is it's a costly perspective, but also from the downtime and the risk, right? A lot of people have been cost avoidance. They're like, kick the can down the road as far as we can go. But in today's IT-OT convergence with intelligent devices, deploying new technologies that we never really thought of in an industrial setting. You know, there are technologies out there today. You can literally have lick and stick vibration and temperature sensors on every motor in your facility, with Bluetooth enabled gateways that pump the data directly in the cloud. And you now have condition-based monitoring without pulling a stick of conduit. I mean, it's just amazing what you can do. It's all subscription based. The cost of entry, low point of entry is amazing. And then once you get that data to, I don't care what cloud structure that is, whether it's AWS or your private cloud, whatever, once you get it there, getting data ingestion into a platform, another IoT platform, or a platform that can combine those data, and then you can start doing the right process analytics, the right predictive maintenance analytics, much like we did at NC State, right? We ingested data into the smart platform, or smart manufacturing platform, through a Pi Historian, through an inductive automation platform, through GraphQL APIs from Symbiotic Labs, condition-based monitoring on a motor. You know, you can have various different paths for data to get to the right people at the right time, so that you can make the right decisions. And whether those decisions are made by a computer, right, when you start getting to prescriptive analytics, right, where it can prescribe the action that you take, or automatically take the action, which is, you know, where we're trying to get to, is to get to, you know, more and more lights out manufacturing, more or less, right?
Well, I know Conrad wants to go technical, and I'll let you guys circle back, but I can't help but jumping in here. There's a phrase that I've used for a number of years and talked about how, you know, we have as many challenges in manufacturing with how we think as we do anything with the technology, right? And you mentioned earlier, Tim, 30 years in manufacturing, and that's the same time frame as me. And you go back to the days when some of these technologies that weren't made for manufacturing, but it started to be applied to manufacturing, and they had their, their challenges. And manufacturing as an industry put their heels in and said, we're different, right? This is mission critical stuff. You got safety issues. We can't afford downtime, can't afford any sort of hiccups. So we dug our heels in and said, come back to us when the technology is ready. And we kept that mindset for decades, right? And now those issues of speed and throughput, reliability, and determinism, and all that kind of stuff are gone. And you got the technology pulling us forward faster than we're able to even digest and keep up with. So again, you come back to the technology piece where you were going, Conrad, but we still have to get to the point where people are recognizing that these types of discussions about the technology and the role of technology have a place in the top level discussions of the future of manufacturing businesses and enterprises, and get these kind of conversations more at a strategic level, which you were talking about earlier, Tim.
No, it's true, Mike. There is obviously a relationship. Because it's not just how we're data piping, but what it's enabling us to do, right? When we were so focused on point-to-point integration, and that was needed, that was very useful, and still a lot of that work is going on. But the technology that is letting us more of do publish subscribe or do more spraying data lakes, where many other apps and intelligence can start mining this data easier, really enables all kinds of new intelligence that can be used for that higher level of management that you're talking about.
Absolutely. And I think I've told a number of people this in the past couple of months. For the longest time, to me, IT/OT convergence was more around the hardware, the platform, right? Leveraging Ethernet IP, networks, running on open platforms, Microsoft. And that was the beginning, right? To your point, Mike, earlier in the late 90s, early 2000s, when we started embracing Windows NT, right? We had a lot of issues, and there was a lot of pushback of, this thing's not as robust as the previous generation of DCS or control system. But in today's environment, we don't have that option anymore to push back. I mean, it's pulling us, and the I saw a meme on LinkedIn the other day. Who was your catalyst for digital transformation? Was it your CEO, your CTO, or was it COVID-19? And I think one of the things I told a guy on the phone today, I said, I think we're going to become the system integrator for Industry 4.19. I think this is a catalyst for change, and it will absolutely drive it. And the other thing I was going to say about the convergence is, as I said, I thought it was more about the hardware and the platform, the compute capabilities. But I honestly believe now that IT has won. And I think IT is winning because of their proximity to the dollars, right? The CTO, the CFOs, the CEOs of a given company, right? They are transforming their companies to perform. And just like the Accentures and Deloittes have done from a business execution standpoint, that is now going to be driven all the way down to the shop floor. And it's the same technology. We just have to embrace it on the OT side. We have to adopt it. We have to get the data to the right place.
And to Mike's point of manufacturing is concerned, they don't want to be disrupted. They don't want to be stopped, to put in a new system. And you talked about how you can send somebody a box and get them started. So a lot of that technology, right, can be put in place, and there's all kinds of sensor that doesn't require you to take the whole shop down, right? So there's ways to do that are not highly disruptive to the shop floor.
Absolutely. And you can do a lot of it in parallel, right? Rather than having to rip out a control system that's working and functioning today, you can in parallel pull that data into the right places, get it published to the right place, and do the apps and analytics that, control processors are not cheap computers, right? You're using some very expensive technology from a compute cycle standpoint, that a lot of the things we have put in those systems, because we didn't have anywhere else to put it, whether it was production rate or cost per ton or whatever, really doesn't belong there. It belongs around the control system. The control system needs to be doing what it is capable of doing and doing very well. It needs to be, controlling that control loop, ensuring safety, stopping an operation when there's a problem, etc. And we need to move the compute cycles that are more from a financial standpoint out and around it, and then ingest it back to the right operators that can make a difference.
From
Well, guys,
control to intelligence. Huh?
yeah.
We're running out of time, Mike.
Well, no, I mean, it's up to you guys. I just wanted to make one comment. We've referenced a couple of times about how all of this has been coming for a long time, and Conrad and I used to both be very active at an industry association called Mesa International. And in 2008, I was running the national conference for Mesa, and the theme was proposed of convergence. And at that time, the board shot down convergence as the top level theme of the conference because they felt that the discussion had been overplayed, that we had been talking about convergence for so long that nobody wanted to hear about it anymore, right? And that was 12 years ago that we thought, we've been talking about this so long, right? People get it already. Right? We're still evolving, still coming. So. Yeah. But it's up to you guys. We've been going, I think, a good while. I think we've hit another.
No, I mean, I think that point, IT won. Every company is a software company, right? So obviously it has to come together.
Yeah.
And I think it has to come together in community here, right? I think that's where you need the type of expertise that Tim and his team have, right? And you can't just have one specific lens as you look at how you're going to attack business problems leveraging technologies, right? And that's really what the ecosystem and the community is all about.
And I think it's initiatives like CESMII and OPATH and others that are going to help create those standards so that we get to where, we are doing plug and play, because everybody's plugging and playing the same way. And that's when you get to, as John Dyke likes to say, the democratization of data, right? You've turned it all into puzzle pieces that anybody can deploy the puzzle.
Yep. Almost there, huh?
Yep.
Getting close.
That's right. Getting closer. So, all right, guys. Well, I'd say we wrap this up unless there's any last burning points either of you wants to make.
No, had a great time. Enjoyed it.
Thank you, Tim.
Appreciate it immensely, Tim. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Conrad. Go ahead.
Well, continue the conversation on LinkedIn. If you like these topics, suggest more topics. Let's keep the conversation going.
All right. Thanks,
Take
guys.
care, everybody.
Bye.